Lil Uzi Vert a couple years ago said, "I'm retiring from rapping," and I saw the announcement, and I went, and people were like, "Oh my God, he's retiring!" And I'm like, "Shut up." You said I'm not doing events anymore, and I had a similar feeling.
Yeah,
I had a similar feeling. I saw a podcast where you said, I've just recently I'm done doing events."
Yeah,
and I was like, "No, you're not." So when are you coming back? Is what I'm asking.
It'll happen. It'll happen. I know it'll happen because I can feel the burn inside me. Like I can like feel it's in there, and it's just it needs to find its way out again. I think just a lot of the things I enjoyed about events or have been gone for a while, and I think I need to find that again. I need to find like the reason to do it again.
I know you said you were jaded a little bit. I think is the word you used by how esports has, I guess grown in the way that, there's a lot of people probably don't know this, but when you're throwing events that are dealing with a game that is modern, there's a lot of locked doors that you can't go in, and you have to get permission for everything you do, and it's exhausting in a sense. Is that the part? And I knew what you were talking about when you were saying this.
Yes.
I can't remember what podcast you were talking about it on, but is that the biggest element of why you decided not to do events anymore?
Not the biggest, but it's a big part of it. I would say the number one thing is there's been a lack of personal fulfillment from it. But the second thing is that running the events was getting like increasingly annoying. I think the white label stuff is a good example of of that. I found increasingly as I got more and more like embedded in and like knowledgeable of the way esports was funded on the whole, not just like teams, events. A lot of it boils down to some company's marketing department gives, or some subsect of their marketing department decides to allot their portion of their budget to an agency who then communicates potentially with another agency, which potentially then hires your company to run the event. And that dynamic of like budget to like agency with like 4 people in between, with everybody feeling obligated to make a decision about this thing they know fucking nothing about, is this dynamic that you have to push decision making through. And I think it became really apparent when I was working on white label projects, but it permeates every aspect of esports because marketing dollars are the primary mechanism for funding. And all of these, some guy who doesn't give a shit, who's just living his life like he should, has to show his boss why his job has meaning. So he has to make decisions and has a checklist and make a slide deck that shows that like he worked today.
Yeah. Oh my God. And I've probably said that sentence 50 times.
And he sends that to the other guy who's the same as him, and then she sends it to the client. And then finally at the end point at the client, which is fucking me, I'm like, why do you want to run a Warzone event this way? I don't even play Warzone, and I know you shouldn't run it this way. Here's a better way to do it. And then I have to wait 2 days on and God forbid I have to fucking communicate over email. I know that's just how business is done, but I hate email. And then I have to email back, wait for a response. They don't even know what I'm saying because they don't play the game or play video games or watch streams, but for some reason they control the $250,000 budget that's fucking getting sent over for this project.
Through a video game.
And then they say no. And then we have to do the project in their shitty way.
Yeah.
And I think that is the dynamic that made me really jaded because it is so present. And the nice thing about working for Ludwig for that year and a half is not that none of that ever affected anything, and not that we ever worried about money. You know, we still have to think about money.
Yeah.
But the nice thing was that those things were a lot more limited in that first year and a half.
Yeah.
It was like, let's go and do. We will figure out the funding and the money after. Because we have a lot of money from this YouTube deal, and we can spend it on really interesting and cool projects. So
Yeah.
let's do it our way in the most interesting way. And that was a really cool time. And that was what I did in college as well, is
Yeah.
like I had full autonomy over my events. I got to focus on, most TOs at the time would not focus on flying out random players from Europe because they don't even get why I would do that. And or they would just run tournaments in the same format and the same like a double elim style every time or whatever, right? Like they do the bracket the same way every time.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is dumb. It can be better. Let me do it this way. And then that was kind of my ethos for TOing it all, was like, I can just do this. This is not hard. I can do it better. Let me just do it.
Yeah.
And that was like why I wanted to do anything at all. And I think that's also why it's really, really hard for me to run the same project for long periods of time, because as soon as I get through like 1 to 2 iterations of it, it's like, well, I've checked it off.
Yeah.
It's like no longer novel. And it
Right.
doesn't fulfill me anymore, which is bad because
It's bad.
It's not like
I'm the
like
same
for
way,
example, if you run a weekly Smash tournament, or maybe you run a monthly Madden LAN, or you just organize the
Or a yearly charity event
Maybe
with
you-
retro games.
yeah, or a fucking maybe you even run like a rec volleyball league.
True,
And you've done
yes.
that for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
It is important that people run those things. It is so important that those things continue to exist, and not every event and series is dependent on some organizer's like fulfillment and ego.
It's true.
And I've always said that I am a terrible local TO tournament organizer.
Dude,
'cause-
I would be horrible.
exactly.
Oh my God, I would be terrible.
But that's why I became jaded.
I forgot what I asked. That's really good.